Hey, how's it going, everybody? Look, quick one today. Going to be talking about a rather significant update that might affect most of you advertising on Facebook at the moment, and that is with the rollout of mandatory interest expansion. So if you don't know what interest expansion is, basically you can jump on a Google search and go straight to Facebook's help documents, but the long and short of it, interest expansion expands outside of the interest or interests that you have selected within your Facebook campaign, right? So if I target people interested in business and then I tick a little box below that that says detailed targeting expansion, then that's telling Facebook, hey, if you think I can get better results or more leads or more sales outside of this interest, then you have the authority to go and do that. So that's what interest expansion is. Now, what that means essentially is that if it becomes mandatory, which it's looking like it's going to very, very soon, approximately on the 26th of September, which is about 10 days away from today being the 16th. Basically what that means is your audience sizes are going to be a great deal larger, which isn't a bad thing. Most of you would probably have audience sizes, at least here in Australia, anywhere between 100,000 up to maybe 500,000. And so you'll notice that when you select interest expansion, or it becomes automatically applied for you, that audience size is probably going to go well over 2 million, if not 8 million, depending on the age brackets that you select as well. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you do have to kind of be aware of it and you do have to be ready for it. Now, it's not all kind of doom and gloom. Essentially, only people using the conversion objective is going to be affected by this, whereas the interest expansion goes mandatory. So far as I understand it, on this date, I should say. And so for those of you using lead forms, messenger bots, anything other than conversions, you should be fine. And just to give you some justification from Facebook's reasoning as to why they're rolling out this mandatory interest expansion is because they, quote, saw 30% increase in conversions or online sales from users and advertisers that had interest expansion switched on. So far as we can see, this is done in our best interests, no pun intended, but it is done in our best interest to try and get us better results. The only issue that I do have with it is that if I have a campaign that's working really well, so I'm using a lead magnet, running people to a landing page, asking for an email address, maybe a phone number, giving them a free video or a free walkthrough, and then giving them an option to book a call with me. If I'm using a particular interest, which I do sometimes, then it means that when that interest expansion gets turned on, it's now going to probably look outside those interests, and I may see kind of a dilution of my results. Maybe results get poorer, maybe they stay the same, maybe they get better. I don't actually know, but I will be testing that. So one of the methods, or I guess one of the strategies that we're now executing literally today as I've got this news, is to start to aggressively build new custom audiences with interests that have performed well for our accounts and our clients' accounts. So if I just come back to the example of me using an interest of people who's interested in business, that would look like running an ad or a video to people interested in business as aggressively with quite a bit of spend to fill up that custom audience of video viewers at 100%, or maybe people who have clicked through to the landing page or who have become leads or booked a call, whatever it is. And when it ticks over to mandatory use of interest expansion, at that time, I'll probably make a lookalike audience of this custom audience that has only been run to a particular interest, right? So far, I feel like that's going to be a good kind of backup strategy. So at least you have some form of control. Those of you who do see it within your account, you may be aware there is also a thing called Lookalike Expansion, which at this stage isn't going to be mandatory. And so if it does, then what I just mentioned is going to be irrelevant. If you're not familiar with Lookalike Expansion, where you actually select lookalikes at the ad set level, you'll see there's a little box similar to detailed targeting expansion being below the interest selection. There'll be a box there that you can tick on or off. So anyway, that's what that is. So what should you do for those of you kind of wondering what's your best practices moving forward? If you feel so inclined and you feel like your accounts are going to be affected, then I would start to look to run some campaigns just to a singular interest that has performed well for you in any way, shape or form, because you'll be able to scrape a custom audience off of that and therefore a lookalike when it goes live and becomes mandatory. If you do find a decrease in your account or your results as of roughly the 26th of September, then at that time I would probably look to move into more of your lookalike audiences. Now, one of the considerations that need to be identified and played with as well is, although interest expansion expands on the interest or interests that you have selected, it's still going to predominantly start the campaign upon the interest that you've selected. So one of the things you can possibly do is start with those interests, and if performance declines over the next few days, I mean, it can be so many different variables, but it is likely that as you start to reach more people for less over the coming days from when that campaign went live, that possibly the algorithm is looking outside of that interest in order to get you better results. So this may mean that it's a good idea to leave your ads running for a little bit longer. As most of you would know, I like to leave my ads or new campaigns alone, don't touch them for at least 4 days. I would probably stretch that out to about 8 days so that it can test on the interest first, and that however long or when it actually moves outside of that interest with interest expansion, give it another roughly 4 days to see whether my results, if they do tank, if they come back at any point in time over that week, essentially. So I think that's going to be kind of a new window of testing perhaps, but just speculation at this stage. So hopefully nothing too dramatic happens. But that is essentially all I have for you today. Hopefully that was useful. If you have any questions, as always, let me know. And you have yourselves a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon.